Just want to welcome everybody. I'm Larry Moliterno from Meridian Community Care. Also want to recognize Joy Pacablo Byers here from Campus Recreation. Oh, hi, Joy. And we're happy to be partnering with YSU for this event today and have a few minutes for you to talk to Chris. And just as a way of, I guess, introduction, Chris is a 6'2" point guard from Fall River, Massachusetts. He was a Boston Globe and Gatorade Player of the Year his high school year in senior high school. He ended his college career at Fresno State, where he led the nation in assists and steals. He was drafted in the second round of the 1999 draft by the Denver Nuggets and was then traded to the Boston Celtics in 2000. Chris struggled with substance abuse for much of his basketball career. Alcohol and drug-free since August 1st of 2008, Chris has refocused his life to put his sobriety and family above all else. In June of 2009, he launched Hoop Dreams with Chris Herren, a basketball player development company. He also founded the Herren Project, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing assistance to families affected by addiction, and launched Project Purple, a national anti-substance abuse campaign. His memoir, Basketball Junkie, was released in May of 2011 and chronicles his struggle with addiction and his journey on and off the basketball court. So at Meridian, we're very proud to partner with YSU to bring this type of speaker to our community, and I'd like to introduce Chris Herren.
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Chris, I'm curious. You had a career in the NBA, obviously, but it seems like you're now more well known for your work in drug and alcohol substance abuse prevention. Tell me how that has helped you with your coping with, battling what you were addicted to.
Oh.
Sorry, that's like a weird way to word the question.
No, it's perfect. I would say that in my wildest dreams, I would have never thought that this would have turned into this. I walked into an office in New York City one day thinking I was going to meet a man who makes films, and then we did one together. From that, obviously, my speaking events have picked up, and through that, I've saw a need for kids all across the country struggling with self-esteem, substance abuse issues, self-harm. So I've made it a point to really get out there and get out in front of as many kids as possible. My basketball career is not something I look at with regret. I used to when I was getting high. Today I do not look at it like that. It's a blessing because it gave me the opportunity to do this. My story is not unique in any stretch. It's just basketball's in it. So.
Chris, do you know anything about Youngstown? I mean, in some ways that is comparable to your hometown.
Sure. Boom Boom Mancini, Kelly Pavlik, the Stoops. It's a hard-working blue-collar town. I mean, that was a steel town that, the industry was taken away from. I grew up in Fall River, Massachusetts, which was a textile town, which also lost its economy overseas. So I understand that struggle. I grew up in that struggle. My dad was a politician, so he worked for that struggle. So I know a little bit about it.
So does that make it maybe a little more intriguing to be able to speak to?
Man, I want to say that every place is intriguing because you just never know who's there that's going to hear it. Because that's really what it all comes down to. I always say just one because I was just one. And I know just helping one person, me, like what my life turned out to, and how many people were affected by it. So every place I go to, I believe, is unique. I guess you can say I have a soft spot in my heart for blue-collar towns, because that's how I was born and raised. So, good question.
Do you tailor what you tell every group that you talk to a certain way, depending on the age group or demographic or anything like that? Your message is pretty much the same. Is there a different way you present it or anything like that?
Yes, there is. If this year I spoke to the Packers, the Bears, the Patriots, the Red Sox. If I walk into a clubhouse like that or a locker room, I kind of started in a different place. That being said, I think it's important to share from beginning to end to show you the unnatural and natural transition in drug abuse and how fast things can turn. So, it's my story. I can't really change it. I can tailor it. And there's places that I go to that say, hey, I just want to hear the recovery side, which I do what they tell me. Yes.
I know from your book that you also played in China.
Yes.
And have you been back since you started your recovery? And are they aware, anybody aware of, I guess, that there's similar issues in other countries that you've addressed?
Have I been back to China? I have not. Maybe someday, but it's a long flight. I know that. I remember that much of it. I did drugs in every country. I lived in Iran. I did drugs in Iran. Lived in Istanbul and Warsaw, Poland, and Bologna, Italy. They're everywhere. That's one thing I learned, that it's a universal language. You don't need to know the name of anything. You kind of speak it through action and gestures. And I learned that when I was about 22 years old in Bologna.
You weren't worried about getting arrested in a foreign country?
Was I? Oh, of
Were you
course.
worried about it?
You're always worried, but the drug outweighs the worry. It's often said to me when I do like radio shows or TV shows, and they introduce me as like, the basketball player who played for the Celtics who threw his basketball career away. And it just kind of shows you where most people are at with this, because why wouldn't the intro be that I almost threw my kids away? Was I worried about the police? That's minor compared to what my kids were dealing with when I got home. So the police were always a minor issue in the story.
What was the very first contact with drugs for you? When? Were you in high school? Were you in college? When did it actually start?
Probably 8th grade, 8th, 9th grade.
Do you remember the incident?
I probably smoked like oregano for the first time. Like me and my buddies were experimenting as a little kid. And I say little, but like 7th, 8th grade. And then we bumped into a real joint going in 8th grade to summer of freshman year. Do I remember it? Not really. I remember drinking the first time a little bit, but I can't really go into detail what that night was like. Yes.
You mentioned about being here and hopefully helping one person get the benefit.
Sure.
At what point in your life did that one moment come that was a wake-up call? If it happened to a certain person, a certain...
Yeah, it's almost being repetitive because I'm going to say it in a few minutes, but I went home for my child's birth, and I was 35 days sober. I was in a treatment center, and I went against their advice and decided to go home. And I was high for my son Chris's birth when I was 22. I was high for my daughter's birth when I was 24. So I really wanted to do this, and my heart was saying I could get it done, and I was using 5 hours later. 35 days into it, I'm home with the kids in the hospital, spent 5 hours left, got high, came back, and my wife threw me out and told me not to come back. When I went back to the facility the next day, the man told me that I should call my wife and cut ties, to tell my wife to tell the kids that I died in a car accident, that I should play dead for them and let them live. I haven't been high since.
Recently in this area, there's a good athlete, basketball player, football player, who got caught up in drugs, ended up getting shot or whatever. So doing what you do, I guess, what do you think when you hear stories like that going on with them?
Honestly, I hear stories like that every day. I get emails every single day from people like that. Numerous emails. So, I mean, I just spoke at a school in Philadelphia where a 16-year-old girl took the microphone and announced in front of 1,800 people that she was a heroin addict at 16. You know, she was like this big, blonde hair. She said she started doing it when she was 10. What's more horrifying than that, you know? So I've been dealing with that pretty much everywhere I go. I mean, I just spoke a few days ago at Akron East. I was just in this area. You know, and the emails that I got from those kids were touching. So everywhere I go, kids seem to open up and kind of pour their soul, and that's what this is about, you know, hopefully.
Chris, when did you first decide that you felt the need to tell your story? And does it ever get easier because it's such a personal thing? Does it ever get easier to get up and tell your story?
I would say that if it feels easy, I'll stop, I believe. I think once it gets easy for me, I won't do it anymore. So it never gets easier, never. No matter what kind of room I'm in or how many people, it's never easy. I started when my book came out. When the book came out, I started fielding calls about going to speak, and I was a little hesitant about doing it. So I started in local high schools, and I saw the effect that it was having on kids in local high schools in my area. So from there, I kind of pushed it. And it's been an amazing blessing.
Chris, what was it like when ESPN did a 30 for 30 video, and what was that process like, just following you everywhere?
It was actually not that invasive. They weren't with me everywhere. It was a New York crew who would call me and say, call us when you think you have something that we'd like to film. So I was almost not in charge, but if I felt that there was something coming up, I'd give them a call and they'd drive down. That being said, the original story that was being released was not about me speaking to people in rooms. It was basically about my life and how it changed in the gym with the kids, with Hoop Dreams. And like, for instance, I think they had 700 hours of footage of me in the gym and probably 40 hours of me speaking. And then on the last day they said, we're going to switch it. So I wanted to kill him, and I said, I spent 700 hours with you for no reason, you know? But they become like family, you know? That crew is like, they're with you. They know your kids, and it's a pretty special thing once they're in there for a little while.
I want to thank everybody for coming in, and I think 7 o'clock, Chris will be downstairs, and I think you got a sense of what his story is going to be about. Hopefully you can stick around then and have a chance to talk some more. All right, thank you.
Thank you.